Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to talk about what happens when the person tasked with serving you dinner suddenly becomes the only one who can save your life.
We think we know what a hero looks like, right? Probably a soldier, rifle in hand, right on the front lines. But what happens when that front line completely disappears? When the rules of war are just gone?
Well, this is the story of two men whose only weapon was supposed to be a ladle, and their actions? They didn't just defy orders, they completely redefine what it means to be a hero when everything is falling apart.
Okay, so before we get to the chaos and the explosions, we really need to understand the walls that were built around these men. See, in the 1940s military, your job wasn't just a role, it was a box. And for some, that box was basically a cage.
This slide really lays it all out. You've got two men doing very similar jobs, but trapped by two totally different sets of chains. One guy was limited by his job description, the other was limited by the color of his skin.
So for Dorie Miller, he was a mess attendant, and in the segregated Navy of the time, that meant his job was to serve food, period. He wasn't allowed to fire guns. In fact, official policy made damn sure he was never even taught how.
Then you have Jose Calugas. Now, he was a sergeant in the U.S. Army, but his entire command was confined to the kitchen. He was in charge of meals, not munitions. He was supposed to be tucked away safely behind all the fighting. And then, in two different corners of the Pacific, their worlds just exploded. We're talking surprise attacks, overwhelming force, and a total breakdown of command and control.
December 7th. Pearl Harbor is on fire, and aboard the battleship USS West Virginia, Dorie Miller is trapped right in the middle of a waking nightmare.
Just a few weeks later, thousands of miles away, that same hell is unleashed on the Bataan Peninsula. And Jose Calugas, he's serving food directly in the line of fire. And in those moments, with trained combat soldiers dying all around them, these two men, they flipped the script. They stopped serving and they started leading. Mess Sergeant Calugas sees a friendly artillery gun get silenced by enemy fire, its crew just gone. So he makes a choice. He sprints through a literal hailstorm of shells to take command of that fallen position.
1,000 yards. Just try to picture that. That's like running the entire length of 10 football fields while shells are exploding all around you. And he didn't just get to the gun, he pulled together a new crew out of the chaos and got that thing firing again.
Meanwhile, on the sinking deck of the West Virginia, Mess Attendant Dorie Miller, who had zero weapons training, remember, he first drags his mortally wounded captain to safety. Then, he grabs an unmanned anti-aircraft gun and, totally on his own initiative, starts blasting away at enemy planes until he's completely out of ammo.
So, what happens then? What do you do when somebody breaks every single rule to become a hero? How do you reward a man for doing the one thing you insisted he was incapable of doing?
Well, the medals they got tell a fascinating story all on their own. Calugas was approved for the Medal of Honor for taking command. Miller got the Navy Cross for manning a gun. Two incredible heroes, two different top awards. And that difference, it's really telling. For Miller, getting any recognition was a battle in itself. At first, he was just commended as an unnamed Negro. And while the Navy Cross was, a historic first for a black sailor, a lot of people, including congressmen, were screaming that his actions obviously deserved the Medal of Honor. But the institutional resistance, which was rooted in the Navy's own racist policies, was just immense. Calugas' journey to get his medal was an absolute nightmare. After his heroic act, he had to survive the Bataan Death March, then years as a prisoner of war. And after he was finally freed, he went right back to fighting as a guerrilla. He finally received his Medal of Honor in 1945 and would eventually become a U.S. citizen and retire as a captain. Miller's story, it went a different way. After he got the Navy Cross, he was killed in action in 1943. But the fight to fully, truly recognize his heroism, it never stopped. It is still going on to this very day, with the new aircraft carrier now bearing his name and recent bills in Congress to finally, posthumously, award him the Medal of Honor. So you have to ask, how long does it take to actually see a hero for who they are? These men prove that courage has absolutely nothing to do with your job title or the color of your skin. It's about what you do when the world is ending. And their stories? Well, they remind us that sometimes the fight for recognition is the longest battle of all.